تستفيدوا منها للفاينل إن شاء الله. وراح أعمل انفسيز على الأغلاط اللي غلطوها بالهوم ورك على أساس إن شاء الله ما تغلطوها أجين مرة ثانية في الفاينل. طيب خلينا نبدأ. خلينا نعمل ريكوردينج. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The meeting 14th. This is the last meeting in the course M251. So what's literates? Does anyone have any idea what literates mean in general? The threads as a concept is not associated with the Java only. Actually, it's more related with the operating systems. And you can see it in many other platforms, not only in Java. So does any of you have heard about the threads as a concept? I don't know if you took the operating system or not yet. Yes, Qadir, it's kind of, yes. It's a concept that allows you to operate or process more than one task in the same times. Exactly. Okay, so today we'll talk about what's the threads, how we create the threads in the Java, and we'll talk about the different thread status, how we initialize it from the beginning until certain task is finished at the end. Yes, Asiel, it's a group of a process doing one task. No, it's not a group of process doing one task. You kind of know what it is, but let's doing it together. We'll talk about it now, and let's try to make sure you get the right idea about the threads. So the threads actually, it's the basic unit of CPU utilization. Okay, so if you're having only one CPU in your machine, that means you can run one task each time. You cannot run more than one task in the same time. But let's assume if you're having a PC that has a multi-processors, so that means you can assign different tasks to different processors to do it. So this is what we talk about the threads now. So the threads in Java, so let's back to our presentation here. So Java threads language was allow programs to do several things at once. So instead of you assigning a task and all of them is going to happen within one thread, now we can create, we will use a threads class. So the threads in Java as a class, it's a built-in class that allow you to divide the process, okay? So the threads are separated activities with a program, each of which has began and end. So if you're having one task or one activities, it's supposed to have a start and end. It's going to start at certain time with a certain variables and methods and whatever, and it's going to end at sometimes when finishing a certain task, for example. Let's see an example here. They said, in some cases, you would like to do more than one activities in the same times. Like, for example, if you would like to monitor a keyboard, you would like to see the user, what's the user is typing now. Is the user is typing number, letters, what's exactly he's typing or she's typing at certain time. And then at the same time, you would like to see the movement of mouse. So maybe he's typing something and at the same time is moving the mouse, dragging, dropping something, clicking a button to do some actions. So there's two activities may happen at the same times, right? So each of those tasks or activities, you can think on it as it's a single thread. in the program. So you have one program. Your program may have a code to read what user is typing on a keyboard, and at the same time, your programs catch what's the movements happen with the mouse. But they are in one program, but they are different activities. Okay. So based on what I just explained, what we used to do before, starting from 105 and all our examples, even when we study the Java FX, do you think how many threads we used to use before? How many threads we used to use? Like in all our examples, we had it before. How many threads we used by default, by not creating or extending the thread class? Okay, Lujan and Bushra, you're right. We used one. So far, the program that we had written have had only one thread. Okay. So, and this is where this is the thread started on. It's a start for main methods. So when you're doing the main methods, you have one thread. It's going to go in order. You're creating an object, the second object, you're calling a method, is going to invoke the method. So it's going to go to that method, execute whatever you have on it, and go ahead until the end of the line. So you're having only one thread. Okay. So let's assume, for example, if you're having more than one task, who is going to take care of which of those tasks supposed to start first? Or if this task is supposed to finish first, then task one is supposed to start. Or I'll give it certain time. I'll say task one, okay, you have a time until for example, 100 milliseconds. If you don't finish your task, I'll give the process to task two. Who's going to take care of all this is what's called scheduler. We're not going to talk about it today. It's a topic by itself, and it's depending on the platforms. So each platform has its own scheduler. Okay. Okay, so the threads are not actually static code, but rather it's a dynamic process. What does that mean? We will see now a code. If you're creating a code and you said, I'm going to assign an object to threads and another object to another threads, who's going to take care of this? Who's going to start first? Are we going to decide it or who? Who's going to decide which task is supposed to start or finish or stop or wait? Exactly. The scheduler. Okay? The scheduler is going to take care of all these details. Okay? So that's why we don't know what's behind or what's the rule inside the scheduler. Each platform has different rules, sometimes based on the priority, on the availability, on many things. Actually, during my PhD project, I was working on a scheduler on the storage. So if you're having HDD and SSD, how you can assign your data supposed to start or stop or saved on SSD or HDD, depending on number of input and output. So scheduler, how you define it by itself is a big topic. So we're not gonna go over it. The things that you need to know is it's the part is going to deal or is going to take care of who's going to start it. And because we don't know what's the rule behind it, it's going to be static in this case. So if you run the same code, you get a different results every time. Okay, so that's why it's a dynamic. Okay, so we'll talk about something called concurrent systems. And what does that mean? When we said concurrent systems, بالعربي اللي هي التزامن. Okay, so something happened in the same times, like in a parallel way. So it is going to do it. It's an area of computer science that represents a concept surrounding a use of the threads. And the concurrent systems consisted of a collection of separated activities or tasks. So you have more than one task, are simultaneously at some stage between them starting and finishing. So you need to follow who's going to start, who's going to finish, who's going to start, who's going to finish, okay? Sometimes, no, it doesn't mean in parallel, because in parallel is going to happen at the same times. But this is one is finished and the other is going to happen after it, okay? So in concurrent systems, each task is made in a thread. So the first task, if you're having task 1, it's finished, then it's task 2. Sometimes task 1 doesn't finish, it's just wait for some reason, as we're going to see later, okay? For a multiprocessor computer, each thread can truly run at the same time. So here, this is what I just said. Sometimes multi-tasks can happen at the same time, but when you're having multi-processors, okay? So then they're going to happen at the same times. But if you have a single processor, then the CPU can carry out only one set of instruction at a time, okay? In this situation, the thread share CPU and the operating system will allocate a small block of time to each thread, okay? So now we know what's the threads. Before I go ahead and let's see how we can create a thread, can I ask you a few, like in top of your mind, any example that we need to use the threads from, let's say from your life, from daily uses of computers. An example, it's not about the threads. When you're having a multitask and then you have a scheduler, can you think about any example? Any example that we're using when we use a computer, it is going to go with process, schedule, something is going to happen first, second, and so on. Can you think about anything? Example? Yes? No? Maybe? Okay, so I'll give you putting the programs start up. Yes, programs are starting up. So one is finished and then it's go to another. Yes, it could be that. I give you an example, and I'm gonna to create a program based on that example. So after explaining the slides, we'll go to NetBeans and see that to make it more clear for you. The example that's I like it. I think about it like when you have a printer and you send a document to print. So if you send the first document, it is gonna, you said print 10 copies. So it's gonna print 10 copies. When it's finished, you already sending, for example, the second order said print document 2, document 3. So it's gonna finish them in order. Or let's assume if we are working in office and many computers are connected with the same printers, so there will be a schedule. Who send the printing order first? it's gonna to print their document first. However, in some cases, if you are working with your boss, he may or she may have a higher priorities than you, so his or her document may print it before yours. So I needed to think about this example during our coding of the threads. So let's explain this, and we will back to our example soon. So to create the threads, there's two ways. Either we're using the class threads. There is a class called threads. So if we are using a class, what are we going to do? We're going to inherit it. To inherit it, what we're going to do? What's the keyword we're going to choose before it? So if you're having a class called my class, and then you would like now to use the threads, the probabilities that we are talking about now. What are you going to do? But what's the keyword before? It's extend, exactly. So you're going to say my class extend the threads, because it's what? Because it's a class. Okay, so this is the first way, using the thread, the class. But wait a second. Let's assume you're writing a code that you're already extending something important or something more related. Let's see, for example, if you're having student and employee, and they are the subclass or the child of person. So we're going to say student extend a person. Okay? Can I do extend the thread as well? If my class has to extend a parent, an important parent, can I extend the threads as well? Why, Qadir? Why I cannot extend the threads? I said student extend a person. The passenger extend the person. Can I say extend the threads as well? Exactly. We can only extend one class. Okay. So if I have to use the threads, but I already have also to extend the class. So what's the solution? Is going to the other way to use the threads, which is using an interface called runnable. Okay, so we implement a runnable in any time we already have to extend another class and we have no way, so we can implement a runnable. Okay, now, do you remember if we can implement only one or more than one interface? For an extend, we said only one class. But now for an interface, exactly, you can have more than one interface. So this is going to be more flexible for you if you already need to extend something else. Okay, so let's back to our slide here. So said, a thread is a treat as an object. So we're going to create an object, an instance object, like whenever we're creating any class. And we're going to extend the threads class. It's already in a Java line. You don't need to import this because it's already embedded within Java. The threads class has a number of methods for creation, destroying, and modifying the threads. So there is, as any class, user-defined or built-in classes, all of them has a variables and has a methods. Similar to that, the threadly class. Okay. Can we discuss this during the revision? Okay. So the first way to define it by inheriting from the threads class. This method used if you wish to inherit only one class. Note that Java doesn't allow multiple inheritance. That's what we just said. The other way to do it is using a runnable interface. Defining the thread by implementing a runnable interface is used when you want to inherit from a class other than the threads. As I just said, if you have to inherit something else, okay? So how we can create the threads? Let's see the first approach, which is using an inheriting, okay? What's the step to do so? So first, let's take a look to the code, and then I'll explain what's written there. So what's your class name here? Okay, so this is the code, and this is the main methods here. So your class, what's your class called? Exactly, Bushra. Okay, Qadir, yes. So where am I? This is your class. And extend what? Extend the threads, which is what we are focusing on today. Okay? Inside your class, you can have any variable, okay? You can have any variables, methods, constructors. So first we have here, we have a variable n, and then we have a constructor, and then we have a method, okay? A constructor, it is going to get one argument and just assign it to the variable, nothing new, okay? What's new for us here, we have a method and let's do some task, but this method is override from the threads. Do you remember when we had to string, when we have equal, when we have compare to? Now we have a run, and when we had the start for Java FX. So في مجموعة من الميثودز مهمة أنكم دائما تذكروها. The one that we just said, it's repeated again and again and again. So عندنا two string, equal, compare to, then we had it for Java FX, we having the start. Now we having for the threads, we having a run. So the threads has a lots of method, but what's important for us in our lesson now is a run. So a run is a method from the threads, but we need to override it to do whatever we would like to do. So the task we would like to do here is just doing a loop and printing this sentence 10 times. That's it. So nothing special, nothing new. The only things that we really care about is that it's going to, it is going to override, a run method. Okay, so this is our class. So this is when we're dealing with creating, this is creating the class. Okay, what about how we get to really use it inside the main method? First, this is our class is called where am I? We're gonna to create an object from what? From these classes, like what we used to do. Exactly, we haven't changed anything. And then equal and new, we're gonna to call a constructor, exactly same things. And then we're gonna to pass some number here to go to the constructor. Until now, إلى الآن هذه نفس الخطوات اللي كنا نعملها لما كنا ننشأ أي كلاس طبيعي. نعمل الكلاس، اسم الكلاس، راح تنشئي الفاريبلز، الميثودز اللي الكونستراكتور عفوا، بعد كذا الميثودز، داخل المين راح ننشئ اوبجكت، راح نعمل call إلى الكونستراكتورز. After that, if you would like to use it, so what do you mean, Ahmad? Should be start? You mean we haven't to go to start now? I'll explain it soon. Okay, so until now, nothing's new. Okay, We already studied how we override if you having extend any classes, we override their methods. What's new now, we having this object, it's called place one, right? Usually, place one can access what? All the method inside the where am I, plus the methods inside the parent class, right? Okay. Now we said place one dot list start. From where we bring this list start? I just give you the answer. Any object can only access its method and the parent's methods. So from where we bring the start method here? Exactly. No, it's not from where am I. It's from, as what Isam and Abdul Manam said. It's from the threads. So, the start, you don't see any start here, do you? بشرى ولجان. تشوفوا هنا فيها أي start method موجودة داخل where am I? No, we don't see any start method. That means this starts coming from where? From the parent, the threads. What does this start do? This is what's special here. When you call the start, it is going to invoke embeddedly a run. يعني حنا لما نعمل call إلى الستارت معناها إن شغل لي الرن اللي تكون موجودة داخل هذا الكلاس. So we don't say place one dot run. We say place one dot start. That means embeddedly it is going to invoke a run method here. Clear? Any question about this? Okay. So let's see what's written here and see. So define a class by extending the threads. So this is what we said here. By extending the threads class and override a method. So extend واحد, then override a run method. Okay? Okay, Bushra. Which part exactly? You mean the start method ولا كل الجزء؟ No, Batal, not if you write anything. Only run here. Okay, بشرى. الآن احنا أنشأنا الكلاس حقنا تمام؟ راح يكون فيها variables وراح يكون فيها الكونستراكتور وراح يكون فيها مجموعة من الميثود من ضمنها لازم يكون فيها الرن ميثود اللي هي ايش؟ override من مين؟ من الثريدز. Good. Now, الرن is override من الثريدز معناها ان هي already موجودة كانت بالثريدز. Inside the main, when you're creating an object, any of this object can call or invoke any method available في where am I or available في threads. Okay, so if I have method call method 1 here, method 2, I can say place 1 dot method 2, place 2 dot method 3, whatever. لكن في threads we don't say place 1 dot run. This is the part is different بالنسبة إلى threads. What we do, we invoked it not in a direct way. We say place 1 dot start. From where it starts coming? From the threads. And inside this start is being go to run and run it. Okay? So this is what the start mean. So the start mean it's a class in the threads. So it is gonna, it's like you imagine inside the start, you invoke to run. Okay? That's clear now, Bushra? Okay, good. Not just to write other one. No, now we are talking about the threads between the start and run. Don't put other methods or think about something else. There is other stuff to do or deal with the threads, but let's just focus with the start and the run now. That's all, okay? So in a run method, you should write the code that you wish to run, particularly has a starting running status. This is what we're going to talk. The threads راح تمر على مراحل. It's going to has different status. Initial, runnable, then running. So let's start here. Let's start. It's mean a running status. Okay, so we said first you're gonna to extend the threads, you're gonna to override the method. This is inside your class. Okay, so this is here first inside your class, or let's say A. Then B, what are we gonna to do? First, you're gonna to create an instance object of above class. Object for which type? The object of place one is the type with the class you just created. It's not a type of the threads, okay? This is important to remember. So an object, an instance object of what? Of the class اللي هي where am I? Second, what we're going to do is start running an instance using the start method that is defined in the threads. Okay? So this is the first approach to create the threads. The second approach is using what? Implementing an interface, اللي هي runnable interface. Okay? It is exactly the same things, but we having one extra step. So we having highlights. Okay. So we're going to talk about a runnable interface. So how we define it? Let's go to the example and then we'll go reading the word. So we having our class which is called where am I to, and now we don't extend, we implement a runnable, and the rest we will see the example now, Jen. It's a good. Okay, I'll say it now. I just postponed it to doing it in NetBeans, but I'll tell you now. Okay. So here the code exactly like what we had before. Exactly. So, but previously we extend. Now the first step. So this is A, and this is B. So before we extend here, first we implement. Second step is similar. So second step is overriding a run method. So let's get to B and see what's different. So the first difference here. So let's me using different highlights. So this is the first difference. اللي هي الايش extend and implement instead of extend. Let's go ahead. What about B? How we can do it? We're creating an instance object of from where am I? Is this similar or different than what we did? Similar. Exactly. نفس اللي عملناه قبل شوية. But now what's happened? I cannot say place one dot start. Why? Because a runnable, okay, a runnable doesn't have a start method. I have to create another object. So this is the different part. I need to create another instance object, whatever it's called, for example, here thread one, from type threads, and I have to pass my object on it. To run this threads, I have to use the threads dot start now. not the object instance from my class. One more time. قبل كذا كنا نعمل instance object from the class and then we said the instance object dot start. Now ما نقدر نستخدم ال start direct باستخدام ال place لأن الآن احنا مش عاملين extend إلى ال threads، عاملين implement لل runnable وال runnable ما فيها start. So راح نستعين ب addition object called threads from type threads that is going to take our object as an argument. After that, we're going to use a name of the threads that start. And this is again going to run our methods here. Here we did it 3 times. Any question about this? Let me answer the question. So back here about the output. So هنا لما عملنا الاوتبوت الرن ايش وظيفتها؟ So when we invoke the run, we're supposed to write I'm in a threads than 3. For example, at the beginning you sent 1, right? So if you send 1, it's gonna to print I'm in a threads 1. I'm in a threads 1 100 times. Then you're placing 2. It is supposed to print I'm in a threads 2 100 times, and so on. Why it doesn't go in order? Because we are using threads. هي هذه هنا الفكرة. انت في الوضع العادي لو كانت الرن اي ميثود ثانية مش الرن ومش جالسين نستخدم الثريدز راح تبدأ لك بالاوبجكت الاول وتطبع جميع القيم in sequence من 1 إلى 100. بعد كذا راح تروح الى الاوبجكت الثاني تطبعها من 1 إلى 100. الاوبجكت الثالث تطبعها من 1 إلى 100. لكن فكرة الثريدز انت لما ترسلي الان انت جالسة ترسلي له تقولي له انا الان عندي 3 مهام اللي هي التاسك الاولى انا ارسلت فيها واحدة على اساس اني اقول لك انا فين. هنا انت ارسلتي الواحد doesn't do anything. number 1 و 2 و 3 هذه ما تعمل اي شيء، انت فقط على اساس تعرفي انت في اي تاسك. yes because of the scheduler. so هنا هذا الارقام every time you run it you will get different answer. so انت لما تعملي run the scheduler will decide which threads is going to start first. يعني الثريدز الأولى هنا it has 100 times to print I'm in threads. بس هو ما راح يسمح إلى البليس الأولى ولا الثانية، راح يعطي مجال إلى الثالثة it's print only 1 sentence. Then said okay it's enough for you. Let's the threads 1 print 1 sentence. Then said okay it's enough for you. Let's the threads 3 print 1 sentence and so on and so forth. Okay, the similar things with here exactly. The concept إن هي مين اللي راح يبدأ وعلى أساس إنه هو it's going to work dealing with the scheduler بنفس الفكرة. It's not randomly Lujan. It's based on a rule we don't know about it. هي تعتمد على السكيدولر اللي حق الجافا و sometimes تكون أيضا متعلقة ب schedulers rules one inside each other. It's not randomly. So هنا يعني في البداية قال أوكي أنا راح أعطي task 3. No, it's not going to ask you to do it as Lujan. So هنا يقول أوكي راح أعطي مجال إلى threads 3 إن هي تطبع 1 sentence. بعد كذا راح أعطي مجال إلى threads الأولى again إلى threads الثالثة and so on and so forth. Okay. So first we'll give sometimes for third threads, then first thread, then third thread, first threads, and so on and so forth, all depending on the scheduler. So in implementing a runnable interface, define the class a runnable override run, creating an instance. Okay, creating the threads, we all said all these stuff. So creating the threads, it has certain status. Okay, الآن المهم كان بالنسبة لنا إنه we understand how it is, how we created, And the second important part in this topic is the status. How many status we going to see? 5 status. First, we need to look in a various status. So first is the initial status. Now راح اقول لكم اشرح لكم ايش هي، بعد كذا راح نربطها كيف هي، يعني كل جزئيه ايش هي معناها بالكود. تمام؟ So we're going to connect each status with what does it mean inside the code. So first is the initial status. After your initial status, you may, for example, initial threads 1, 2, and 3. So 1 and 2 and 3, like in the previous example, كلهم فين راح يروحوا؟ They will be here, threads 1, threads 2, and threads 3. They all move into a place where it's called runnable status. It doesn't mean they're gonna to run. That means they are ready to run. There's a big difference. They are not running yet. They are ready to run. So they are in a runnable status. After that, depending on the scheduler, we said, okay, now I pick threads 3. So threads 3 now, it is gonna to run, resume, and start and go in a running status. So how many tasks can be in a runnable status? More than one object. Like for running status, how many objects can be there? Only one. What's after a running status? Here we will talk later about the block status. Okay, we'll talk about it. In some cases, you don't finish your task, you stay in a block status for some reason, and then back and when it said, okay, I'm ready now again. Wait for your turn from the scheduler, go to running status, and if you're done, you will go to finish status. Okay. We'll go over the detail of each of this status zone. So here, who's going to govern? Sorry, what's your name? Okay, who's going to govern all these status? That's movement. Okay, الميثودز اللي احنا جالسين نستخدمها, we are using it in our class. اللي هي start, run, wait, new, like new keywords مثلا. Methods here, okay. All these stuff, it is going to control the movement from one status to another. Also, it's going to control by the operating systems, which is external factors. Okay. So let's see how it's worked here. The thread is put into initial status as a beginning. Initial status. When is going to happen? When an initial status is going to happen? When we say new. So by saying new, when we said thread T1 equal a new thread, this is the initial status. Good? A second, when the thread 1 or T1, what is going to go into the place of runnable status? When we say T1 dot start, that means it's going to move here. So this is going to move T1 here. When we say dot start, it's going to move it to runnable status. Okay, I tell it start, that means it's ready. It doesn't mean it's run. This is why I said we supposed to use start, not run. When you say run, انت تعطيها run امر مباشر ان هي لازم نعملها run right away. Okay, so when we use run, that means do it now. But the start, it has different meaning. The start has a meaning that all these threads that you would like to run, give it to me and I'll see, depending on the schedule, who's supposed to run first. So the start is will take all the threads, T1, 2, 3, 2, 4, it is going to put them inside the runnable status. I'm ready to be run. I'm not running yet. Okay? Okay. So then what has happened, this is what I just said, look at the run poll, all the threads actually executed. So what's next after that? Only threads that actually executing. The one is picked by the scheduler, said, okay, now it's T3, threads 3 time. So I'll run the method and invoke it for T3. You don't do this. This has happened behind code. So you don't see which one is picked, which one is run, and so on, okay? You see it if you're putting a printing system like what we did in the previous example. So T-run, this is invoked by the scheduler. The one, so that's why we don't invoke to run. We invoke the start, and the scheduler will make the decision who's gonna to start and invoke the run for it. Okay? And when it's finished, it's going to go to tool finish status. Question about this step? Any question about this step? Okay. So now let's assume sometimes in the scheduler you're having T1, T2, thread 1, thread 2, and thread 3. Okay? The scheduler doesn't give unlimited time to T1 or to T3 or to T2. So let's assume it's give some time to T1. So T1 is going to go and go to running the status. It is not going to stay forever until finished. Sometimes it gives it certain time. Let's say, for example, 50 milliseconds, 100 milliseconds. When that time is out and the task haven't done yet, it is going to yield because of time out and go and wait in the runnable status. يعني ايش؟ يعني الان السكيدولر عطى الصلاحيات الى التي 1 ان هي تكون في الرننج ستاتس وبدات العمل، لكن الوقت اللي هو اعطاه اياها وقت 50 ملي سكند for example, and let's say it's need 70 ملي سكند to finish. متى ما تنتهي ال 50 ملي سكند which is time out يعني انتهى الوقت, it is going to invoke a method اسمها yield, يعني ان هي راح تسلمها الى تاسك ثانيه وراح ترجع مره ثانيه الى حاله الرنبل ستاتس وتنتظر الى ان يجي دورها مره ثانيه. Okay, so whenever the time is out, so if the scheduler give it a certain time and that time is timed out, is going to get back in the runnable status. So this is what's happened here. Okay, in the other way, let's assume الآن هي رجعت T1, it's back to runnable status, and then we run it T2, we run it T3. If it's T1 time again, it's not gonna to start over. It is gonna to run or resume. This time is gonna to resume. So the first time, when it's a T1 time, is gonna to run. But the second time, after time out, بعد ما رجعت وانتظرت في runnable again, it is gonna to resume. What does that mean? That means it's gonna not to start over. It is gonna to start from it where it's left before. Okay? So there is another scenario. Sometimes, let's assume we having task again, task 1, task 2, and task 3. Good. The scheduler decides to get task 2 here and give it again 50 milliseconds. But the task 2 ممكن تكون أي شيء. For example, let's say it's reading from file, I/O starting, input output, reading or writing into somewhere. This process sometimes takes time. So it said, okay, instead of letting all these threads waiting for you and you are doing nothing, you are still working on an input output. انت جالس تشتغل على الانبوت output اللي هي thread 2 is working on an input output to finish, and you wasting time. So instead of ان reserved running status, بدل ما انت جالس حاجز running status, go in a sleep or wait. So you are in a block status until you finish an input output, for example, process that you are working on. Then we will move you in a runnable status. Okay? So in some cases, the threads, it go to running status, but for any reason, such as the late of an input output, you have to put in the blocked status because it needs to do an extra task. Okay? Whenever it's finished this task, it is going to send notified, which is those are methods, notified and notified all are methods, into the scheduler to say, okay, I'm done now. Let's put me in a runnable status again. And it's going to be in the list to pick up from. Okay? And then when it's finished, it's going to go to finish the status. So we'll wait here. We'll wait, notify all, and sleep. All those are methods for the threads. Okay, so it could be called. Sorry, they are wait, will notify all are methods from an object. Okay, 3 methods are inherited from an object class, but the sleep it's already for the threads. Okay, so will wait method calls the threads to wait for a notification by another thread, and notify all provide such notification. Okay, I'm done. I finished what I was working on. Important concepts in this stage Java involve a number of threads, some of which runnable and ready to be executed in a process. Again, this is what we all said before. Single processor machines, only threads actually running at a time, so it's only having one. Scheduler is the part who's going to make the decisions. The decisions as when threads executing switching will depending on the underlying operating system. So as I said, there's an external, let's say, factors and rules we don't know about it. Okay. Some operating systems switch when a current running thread becomes blocked. يعني أحيانا بعض operating systems is going to switch between the threads. If any threads is blocked, some doesn't have different approach. Okay, there is something تذكروا قبل شوية when I give you an example of a printer. So if you're having one printer and your colleague printing from that printer, but you have a boss. So who's having a higher priority? Absolutely the boss. So if he or she sending a printing task, it's supposed to happen first. The same things with the threads. There's a priority variables. So priorities can be defined inside the threads as 2 constants. الميني priority اللي هي المينيمم والماكسيمم, where ال1 is the higher and that 10 is the lower. Okay. Usually there is a default priority for methods. For example, the main method مثلا الdefault priority حقها 5. Let's assume you would like to change the priority for any method. You can use a method called setPriority that is going to change the priority of any methods you are working on. Okay. So this is what's important here. So different platforms have different schedulers, sorry. Although of interested in particular, we will be not often you need to set priority. Sometimes you need to set it, sometimes you can leave it, up to your cases. Okay, so let's do some exercise. Abdi Minam, okay, who's specifying the priority? You as a developer. So if you are working in something, you decide the priority. Yes, that's why I said there is a method called set the priority. You can change the priority if you would like to. Okay? So let's see the examples or the exercise here. I need you to answer it as fast as you can so we can move to the mock exam. Okay, guys? So are you with me? So let's start with the first exercise. What are the two ways to define the threads? We're having two ways to define the threads. What they are? Exactly. The extend and the implement. And how we choose based on what? Based if we're having only one class or if we're having extend from another, so we're going to use a runnable interface. Okay. The second question, when a thread is executing, does it continue executing until it goes to the end? يعني الآن احنا لو جالسين نشغل threads is going to go until the end إلى أن ينتهي or not? Why? Okay, I'll tell you why. It's long to write this answer. Okay, so yes, you answered right. No, because it's a likelihood to threads will be accessed by CPU. So it's depending on the scheduler, how much time is given, if it's blocked because it's waiting to finish I/O, for example, or it's stopped by another threads or anything. Okay. And the third question here. How do you tell a system that you want to set a thread running? الآن احنا قلنا we have 5 stages. هذا السؤال ممكن تغيروه in 5 different ways. يعني ممكن يجيكم سؤال, you can say, how do you tell a system that you want to set the threads and running? To set the threads in a runnable status. To set the threads in initial status. To set the threads in a final status. We don't have a final status. We have, or we don't set it actually. So we set it how you initialized, how you put it in a runnable, how you put it in a running. Okay. So how we can put it on a running? Exactly as what you, most of you said. Creating an instance of thread, you invoke the start because we said running. What if I said the same question to set the thread and initialized? If I would like to set the thread and initialize the status, what I'm going to use? New, good job. What if I said I would like to set the thread in a runnable status? Confusing, right? Okay. So again, a running and a runnable is going to be with a start, but and a run, which is going to do a real running, it is going to be invoked. You don't do it by yourself, okay? Okay. When would you typically want to define thread by implementing a runnable rather than an executing? We already answered this. So when we get to use implementing, متى راح نستخدم الانترفيس runnable instead of executing? When you already have to extend another class. How do you define create the start thread using a runnable? How we defined create and start the thread using a runnable. هذا الانسر is quite long, so to define it, it's let's define the question to two apart and the answer as well. So who has asked how to define, create, and start? So 1, 2, and 3. The answer: the thread class is defined. So this is here, number 1. And I please try to do this in final. When you're having a question, try to define the question and answer each part of it, because it's happened many times. You read the question and you miss one of the parts. So just divide it and try to answer it. It's okay even if you put it in a separate line to make sure you're covering everything. So define by implementing an interface runnable. That single methods and an interface and is going to do run. This is the first part. The second one, the second part, create. Create can be how you created. There is two creation في الانترفيس. بالنسبة إلى extend, we just creating an object من الكلاس اللي حقنا. But بالنسبة إلى الانترفيس, we have to create an instance of this threads class. This is number, let's say, call it A, and pass this instance to thread constructor. اللي هي الثريدد class اللي هي الكلاس اللي أنت عاملينه. It could call my class or whatever. اللي هي عملناها قبل شوية. So you create اللي هي where am I class، عملنا منها object. بعد كذا الobject اللي حقها عملنا لها pass into the thread constructor to create a new thread object. Okay? This can then be treated as another threads object and can be started by invoking the start method. هذا الآن number 3 starting from here. الimportant المهم بالنسبة إلى start method إنكم تحددوا who's gonna to invoke it. يعني لو جاء سؤال مثل كذا and you said it is using the start method, this is an incomplete answer. You have to say who's going to invoke it in the threaded class object ولا الثريدز الانستنس اللي جايه من الثريدز. So اللي راح يعملها call هي الثريدز اللي هي الاوبجكت اللي من نوع الثريدز. Okay. So what is the difference between the threads اللي تكون موجودة that it's in the blocked status and on the runnable status? I like this question actually. So what's the difference between the one when you have it في the blocked status واللي تكون موجودة في runnable? Both of them it's not in a run case. So if you remember قلت لكم بالrunning status you can have only one thread. لكن بالrunnable state وبالblock state you can have more than one, and they are not running. Both of them are not running. يعني if you're having T1 in a runnable state and T2 في الblocked state, both of them are not running. But what are the difference? Anyone? Okay, I'll tell you. So, the threads اللي تكون موجودة في runnable status, the block was running and now ideal and runnable is ready to run. Yes, Isam, almost there. بالضبط. اللي تكون موجودة في runnable, it's ready to run. But the one in the blocked status, so a runnable thread is fully ready. اللي تكون موجودة في runnable status, it's fully ready to run. But the one in the blocked status is definitely not ready to run. هي ليش أساساً راحت إلى blocked status? Because it's not ready to run. It still have some task to do. لسه مثلا عندها input output is working on it, so it's not ready to do, so it's going to be go to block the status. So في البلوكed status is not ready to run. في runnable status من اسمها إذا أنتم تنسوها تستذكروها from the name. Runnable status ready to run. The blocked status is not ready to run. It is waiting for something to happen. It's waiting for an input output to finish. Okay, the last thing here. How do we explain the following? Let's assume we're having, this is our class, and we're creating an instance object T1. And this is initialized status, initial status. And then we're doing the start. And this is going to happen and run. Do we write this down? No, we don't write it down. It's going to happen, yes, but out of the mechanisms. We are not going to do it. The question is, who is responsible to invoke the run? Who is responsible to invoke the run? Anyone? Who's responsible to invoke the run? Yes, Bushra. Scheduler and the operating systems. مش user, no. Okay? The operating systems and the scheduler. So this is the end of the presentation. I'll just show you an extra slide just to clarify. Unfortunately, we don't have a time. I just would like you to finish this and go to the mock exam. So, and بس راح أراويكم, this is, I just create this pictures to make it clear for you. So if you're having a test threads, which has the main methods here, مثلا, oh, what I did. Okay, let's back. So if you're creating this class, print to order, for example, it can inherit the threads. Okay? So what you need to do, you're creating an object from the print order, and then you call the start from the print order. You do the same things for second object, third, fourth, the same things. Extend the threads, what the threads has, the variables. We have the maximum priority, minimum, and normal priorities. And it has a constructor. This is not the only constructors. It has, threads has a lot of constructors, but the one that we are using, this one. This for now we don't use this. This is, we use it for all interfaces. So here is the start, run, the slave, will yield, and set the priority. We don't use it in our example. The second method على أساس إن إحنا نعرف الثreads. So if you're having an object from your class, okay, you cannot, this is wrong, you cannot invoke the start right away. You have to create another instance from type, I forget to do this, from, oh, I do, sorry. And actually those are wrong. So yes, it's supposed to be from type the threads. Let me just, yes, so I have it here, I just forget it. So the threads has to be with the type the threads as a class, which is, in our case, we implement a runnable. But when we creating a T3 or T4 or whatever, راح تكون نوعها من the threads. And which constructor we're going to use? This constructor. راح تجيها ال object from here, okay? So this is just an explanation. And this is the end of so this is the end of our lecture, as Lujan asked. We'll have 5 minutes and we will do the mock exam, okay, guys? And كل عام وانتم بخير. So this is the last lesson in our topic. So 5 minutes exactly now, or maybe less than this, Lujan. So راح نبدأ with 20 minutes, 22 minutes, and we will start it, okay? 22 minutes and we will start الموك exam. أساس لو أحد حاب يطلع للصلاة quickly. المسألة أن الموك exam already طويل and we just have today. So I would like to cover as much as possible with you guys. بالإضافة أنا وعدتكم إني راح أراويكم النت بينز إلى الثريد. So بعد البريك until 22 إذا أحد حاب يطلع راح أراويكم في البداية النت بينز ونبدأ الكويستشنز. It's not done yet. You will see. Yes, نايف. أعتقد لأن الموك إكزام ما أعتقد أن راح نخلصه اليوم. So راح نكمل المراجعة بكرة إن شاء الله في وقت المحاضرة في وقت المعرض. When it's done. طيب خلينا نرجع الآن بس أرويكم كيف الثريدنج في النت بينز ونرجع للموك اكزامز. So بالنت بينز الطريقة الأولى نفترض الآن هنا عندنا بالمين. أنا المثال اللي I give it to you أنا مثلا يكون عندك printer. So let's just this is the second part. مثلا الآن I create a class اسمه print to order E اللي هي هنا I used ال extend threads and initialize or create variable اسمه order number وهنا راح يكون فقط انها راح اعطيها الاوردر وهذا exactly نفس اللي موجوده عندنا بالسلايد لكن اللي حطيته هنا انه هو الاوردر ممكن انه هو الطلب الاول وبعد كذا انه هو راح يطبع لك هل هي الاولى او الثانيه and I just reduce it to 10 to make it clear. So this is using extend ان هي باستخدام الclass threads. So let's assume I do print order و create object من نوع print order وinvoked ال1 اللي هي order 1 الآن راح يكون وعملت لها start. Okay. What I'm going to get, I run it out. Okay, so هنا you see it's printed from 1 to 9 لأنه هو الوحيد اللي موجودة as the only threads فراح إلى go to loop and print order 1 خلينا نفترض أنه هو الطلب الأول وهو طبع 10 صفحات هنا 10 pages is going to print all of them but let's assume if we having another order number 2 and we print we invoke the start. What we're going to do if we run the file, you see here first إنه هو من الأوردر رقم 2 طبع البيج 0 1 و 2 و 3 و 4 و 5 و 6 و 9 بعد كذا طبع اللي بعده. In this case هذا الآن لأن it is in one run. If I run it again, it may give a different answer. I don't know why it's giving the same things here. ولا هو واقعا يعني even when I tried it out it's not going to give it the similar. The other way to do it إن هي إن نستخدم we using implements للrunnable. So we're going to do exactly the same things. راح أعرف متغير وراح أعملها لكن اللي راح يكون مختلف بالنسبة إلى الكلاس هنا اللي هي الimplements. المور difference موجود راح يكون داخل المين. يعني هنا عملنا فقط كلاس واحد لكن لما بنكون نستخدم الرنبل انترفيس راح نحتاج نعمل اوبجكت من الكلاس اللي حقنا بعد كده another class من الثريدز وبعد كده نعمل له ستارت. لو عملنا له رن راح يطلع نفس الشيء نفس الاجابات انه هو راح يطبع الاوردر من البدايه الى النهايه بس خلينا نشوف مش عارفه اذا هو راح يطلعها بالاوردر again. Okay, something weird here. But here usually in normal cases not supposed to get بالorder. It is going to. This is the first object and this is the second one. Usually the scheduler doesn't give a lot of time حق one thread إلى أن ينتهي. بس يبدو أن setting الrules اللي محطوطة أنها it's take it a lot of time سمحت لها أن هي تخلص all the tasks. إيش التاسك اللي موجود عندها؟ أن هي تطبع السنتنس فهي طبعت السنتنس من 1 إلى 10 جميعها وبعد كذا عطت الوقت إلى الثريدز الثاني. طيب هذا بالنسبة إلى الثريدز. خلينا نحول على الموك إكزام. طيب unfortunately إنه هو الأنسرز موجودين right away هنا فأعتقد إنكم right away راح تعرفوا الإجابات إن هي موجودة بس لو كان في أحد عنده سؤال يعني إحنا شرحناها وتحسوا it's not clear just tell me and I'm going to explain it again. what's the output of the following؟ هذا الكويشن تكرر عندنا نفسه بالريفيجن نمبر 4 I believe. إذا تذكروا نفس السؤال كان موجود. الإيكوالز خلينا نجي إلى المهم. What's the difference لما يكون عندك two string for example S1 وال S2 okay? If I would like to compare the content I'm gonna choose what equals ولا equal. Are you with me guys? To compare the contents الآن أنا عندي ال S1 وال S2 أنا حابة would like to compare the contents. Do I'm supposed to use the equals ولا equal? equals. يعني الآن لما أقول هل ال contents حق ال S1 وال S2 are similar? This answer is going to be true. طيب السؤال الثاني لما يقول لك equal هو يسألك هل هم يأشروا على نفس الريفرنس؟ هل هم يأشروا على نفس الريفرنس؟ هنا التريكي ثينجز. إذا ترجعوا إلى السلايدز اللي أخذناها if you define string S1 equal to new if I use word new here this mean is going to create like S1 is going to create a new place and put a number on it and S2 is going to create a new place and point to another place and in this case يعني احنا لو فقط استخدموا هنا new which of this answer will be انتوا قولوا لي الآن هنا لما قلنا ال contents equal true so it's going to be true are they pointing into the same place equal صحيح لأن احنا ما استخدمنا النيو فراح تكون true الآن الكيس لو قلت لكم إن احنا راح نقول equal to new هنا it's going to be answer A, B, C or D. Exactly. It is going to be C لو احنا استخدمنا هنا new. Okay? طيب في سؤال عليها هذه مهمة تعرفوها. It is simple to know and simple to get it wrong. So إن شاء الله ما تخسروا فيها درجات يعني. في سؤال عليها؟ أنا ما أعرف باقي الطلاب معانا ولا في مكان ثاني. طيب ممتاز خلينا نروح إلى السؤال اللي بعده هذا شوية تريكي مش هذا اللي بعده طيب إيش سارة؟ سؤال؟ طيب يا سارة لما يكون عندك string if you are having strings okay you can compare two things أما المحتويات اللي هي ال contents how you can compare them using ال equal so الآن ال S1 وال S2 are they having the same contents هل محتوياتهم نفسها yes so it's going to be true okay ال tricky part لما يقول لك equal معناها هل هم يأشروا على نفس المكان are they pointing in the same place فالآن if you don't use the new معناها ان ال S1 وال S2 ما دام انهم عندهم نفس الكونتنت يعني انهم يأشروا على نفس المكان فراح تكون true but لكن لو قلنا ان ال S1 equal to new وبعد كذا حطينا المحتوى هذا معناها انت جالسه تنشئي مكان جديد الى ال S1 and you put the content on it ومكان جديد الى ال S2 وتحطين content فيها this is mean الكونتنت محتواها نفسه اللي هي ال 251 فأول جزء راح يظل true لكن الجزء الثاني إذا سألتك لو أنا استخدمت new وقلت لك هل ال S1 equal ال S2 that's going to be false لأن each of them is pointing to different place واضح سارة؟ Yes even if it's one of them only new clear move good نشوف الكويستشن اللي بعده they said if you're having this code الآن عندكم class اسمه school inside this class they create a method اسمها number of students this is a method okay ايش نوعها abstract الآن يقول لك which of this sentence is true the keyword public and abstract public والabstract cannot be used together هذه خطأ يعني you can have public وabstract together equal for content yes for a reference بالتالي صح so انت ممكن انك تستخدم الببليك والabstract let's back to our question الببليك والabstract it can come together good so this is fine I mean it's fine I mean the sentence when they said cannot this is not true so this is not the answer خلينا نشوف C و D and then we will back to the right answer. The method, the number of students in class school must have body. This is wrong. It must not to have body. Any method class with a type abstract is supposed not to have a body. So any abstract method is supposed not to have a body. Okay? So let's see the right answer. The class the school must define the abstract. This is the right one. ليش؟ لأن you cannot create abstract method داخل class تكون مش نوعها abstract. فهنا هذه الكلاس لازم يكون نوعها abstract as well. Okay? So if you having any abstract method that mean الكلاس نوعه abstract. ما نقدر ان يكون عندنا abstract method ويكون الكلاس مش abstract. Good? Okay. الآن this is little tricky. So ايش هو اللي تفتح قوسين تتركه في هذه؟ قصدك هذا؟ لا you can write it down like this. اللي هي methods. Is this you mean بالتالي الميثود؟ No, you just defined it like this. بهذه الطريقة. I know I have a lot of writing here, بس راح يكون بهذه الطريقة مش قوسين. Okay. طيب السؤال يقول لك الآن إن عندنا interface اسمها base وهذه الانترفيس it has two methods method M2 and M1 which of those the following code fragment will compile in another word which of those are correct in a logic way طيب why I cannot say A ما دام هم already أعطوكم الإجابات I'll ask you why I cannot say A why I cannot interface الآن هم يقولوا لك أنا عندي الانترفيس P اللي هي based وعندي بعد كذا اللي هي ال B2 الآن لو ال B2 هذه عبارة عن انترفيس ال B2 عبارة عن انترفيس again هل أقدر أقول البيز 2 implement إلى البيز فين الخطأ هنا؟ أنتوا عارفين إنه هو خطأ from what's highlighted but why it's wrong? I have interface and I have another interface. Why I cannot say implements? صحيح, exactly, بالتالي بشرى. We cannot implement interface, the class implement interface. لكن الانترفيس extend الانترفيس. فهنا الخطأ بهذه الكلمة هنا. Okay? Okay, what's about next one? What's wrong here? abstract class extend. يس الخطأ فين؟ الكلاس. إذا هي كلاس، لو كانت البي 2 كلاس راح نقول إيش؟ implement. هنا الخطأ إن هي يعني لما يكون عندك انترفيس إلى انترفيس راح تكون extend، وهنا لما يكون كلاس إلى انترفيس راح يكون implement. فهنا هذه هي الصحيحة، لما تكون البي 2 هي كلاس، البيس 2 كلاس والبيز عبارة عن انترفيس، هنا راح نستخدم implement. طيب what about the last one؟ ايش المشكلة في الأخيرة؟ Exactly عصام. This is the reason. الآن احنا عندنا class ونوع ايش؟ abstract. هو صحيح راح يعمل implement إلى الانترفيس. هنا إلى الآن هذه الجملة صحيحة. فين المشكلة؟ It is abstract class. والabstract class الميثود cannot have body. Okay? Abstract class cannot have body. Okay. هذا it's about today lecture. Which of the following are methods of the three threads classes اللي هي اليلد. ما أخذنا الجو ولا الفوق ولا الويك، فهي راح تكون يلد. Okay. التريسنج. الآن هذه كيف راح نعمل التريسنج important بالنسبة إلى الريكيرجنز. ممكن البعض شوية في الريكيرجنز you get confused وتكون شوية التريسنج مش دائما straight forward. الطريقة هذه شوية كويسة يعني إن شاء الله تكون سهلة بالنسبة لكم. تقدروا تعتمدوها وتتبعوا عليها وأنتوا يعني يكون عندكم recursions tracing. طيب المهم هنا إن إحنا نقرأ السؤال. طيب إيش يقول لك؟ What does the following function print n equal 4? Show your working steps. هذه حطوا تحتها billion lines. When they ask you to show a working step, that means you have to show a working steps. If you just put the output is 8, you will lose a lot of mark. لأن الستيب هي المهمة الآن. Okay? So لا تتحمسوا كثير when you see a question, okay, you write it down. ممكن يكون عندكم draft paper وتحطوا فيها الإجابة وتحطوا الجواب النهائي بس بالورق حق الاختبار. الستبس خلوها موجودة بورقة الاختبار. حتى even I know it's going to make it harder for us. حتى لو كانت مش مطلوبة خلي الworking step موجودة بالبيبر. So at least we can help you if you get the wrong answer. Okay? الآن let's do it. الآن كيف راح نعمل التريسنج؟ تقولي we having the 4. So you put the name of the methods, trail and 4. So this is the initial step. Then you will ask us, the 4 equal 1? No. So where is going to go? Else if. N equal 2? No. So it's going to go to else here. So what is going to happen? It is going to call the trail again. What is going to have inside it till n minus 1, which is 4 minus 1, so it's going to be 3. Plus the trail in n minus 2, so 4 minus 2 is going to be 2. الآن this is not done. ما دام حنا لسه نشوف الميثود اسم الميثود موجودة معناها ان حنا لسه مش done إلى أن تظهر معنا في النهاية كلها أرقام. So نحتاج الآن نبدأ إما من الجزء اليمين أو الجزء اليسار ونكمل عليها ونخلي العملية البلس موجودة. الأسهل إني ممكن إن إحنا نبدأ باليسار وبعد كده نبدأ باللي بعده. يعني مثلا الآن هذه هنا البلس، فأنت تفترض أن البلس موجودة هنا وتكملي عليها. So الآن let's forget about trail 1، نرجع مرة ثانية إلى trail 3. الآن حنا هنا لما تدخل على الN إن هي 3 it is going to go is it F else F no it is going to go to return again. راح يكون عندنا التريل 3 minus 1 so it's going to be 2 and التريل plus التريل 3 minus 2 is going to be 1. So this is you can يعني على اساس انكم ممكن ان ما تضيعوها، خلينا نقول ان تعملي هايلايت للي خلصتيه. هذا خلصناه الان we done with it right. الان راح ننزل هنا، راح نروح الى التريل 2. احنا اتفقنا ان احنا راح نبدا من اليسار it's up to you يعني انتم حابين تبداوا من اليسار او من اليمين. ننزل الى التريل 2 if it's go as a 2 here راح تروح في الاف ولا الالس اف ولا راح تروح في الالس؟ تروح الى مين؟ quickly على اساس نخلص اكبر قدر ممكن من الاسئله. We have 2 so it's going to be الالس 2 good. فكم راح يكون الجواب حقها؟ it is going to be 3. فخلينا نعمل highlight الى ال 3. so we done. when we going to stop لما تلاقي ان عندك رقم خلاص وصلت الى numbers stop and get back now. الى مين راح نرجع؟ we find a number راح نشوف الان لما نطلع خطوه فوق مين اللي لسه ما عملنا لها الهايلايت؟ التريل 1. so راح اقول انا هنا لو ارسلت للتريل 1 if I send ال 1 it is going to go الF ولا الelse F ولا الelse it is going to go to الF. okay so how much is الF? that means return 2 so we will have 2 here. so we done with the trail 1 صحيح ولا لا؟ الآن نرجع خطوة step back. did we done with the trail 2 هنا؟ لسه ما عملنا لها highlight معناها we haven't done it. so راح نرجع نقول الآن if it 2 it's go N as ال N it is going to go to ال F no it is going to go to ال else F ال N equal 2. إيش راح تكون النتيجة حقها؟ 3. so now we put the 3 here. we done with the trail 2 and we don't have any function anymore. so الآن راح نبدأ عملية الحسابات. هنا راح تكون عندنا 3 وهذه كانت 3 already we did it في trial 1 2. هنا المفروض نحط بلس 3 ترجعي تنزليها مثل ما هي. راح نقول 3 و 2 is going to be 5 وهنا انتوا لو تتركوها بنفس المستوى راح يساعدكم الموضوع افضل من كذا انكم تتركوها بمستوى ثاني. فتتركوها 3 هنا راح تكون 3 المجموع حقهم it's going to be 8. okay question about your recursion. any question about tracing your recursion. هذه مهمة it's important one. okay let me see. okay good. so let's go here. This type of a question I know maybe some of you doesn't like it but I think it is one of the common I don't know one of the common type إنهم يكون عندك الكود and you have to complete it. okay so the question هنا يقول لك what about الآن أفضل؟ okay so it's better now. yes no still okay okay what about now? good. الحين الصوت أفضل؟ ممتاز. طيب so the question said change the set radius method. الآن we have here class called circle and we have a variable called radius. And then we're going to have a method called set radius. The set radius method is going to have here one argument. And this is the end of the method, and this is the end. This is the end of the method, and this is the end of the class. So what they're asking us to do, so that it throws in a legal argument exception. يعني راح تقول لك throws إذا كان فيها مشكلة بالنسبة إلى العدد اللي اليوزر entered whenever it's a negative with appropriate message if the radius is negative. So you have to do three things. First اللي هي الثروز لازم تكون هما already they give it to you. إذا قال لك استخدم try and catch, use the try and catch. Use the throws, please use the throws. So we will do for نفس sentence throws illegal exceptions. بعد كذا what's the decision if إذا كانت radius less than or equal 0 because they said it's negative. Already هم هنا sorry bigger than or equal 0 هنا there is no problem. When you get to have a problem, في else you're going to throw, and then we're going to create new exceptions. Illegal argument exceptions, وهنا راح نحط الميثودز اللي هم طلبوها منا. If they tell you غدير they're supposed to use it. يعني الآن هم already ساعدوكم. يعني if they said legal argument exceptions, you have to put it. لو ما طلبوها depending يعني I cannot tell you you have it's better to يعني الأفضل إنكم if you remember it and you use it. Okay. طيب الآن لو غيرت سؤال if we change it but this time they don't need to use the throws, they ask you to use the catch. Okay, and use different the same actually the same message. So راح يكون نفسه بالضبط نفس الكونديشن ولكن كيف راح نستخدمها لو كان عندنا if we using a try and catch. بالنسبة للtry والcatch we don't put anything after الميثودز. المهم عندنا إن فين نوضع التراي تكون تشمل الجمل اللي ممكن يحدث فيها الخطأ. This is what you need to make sure to do. هذا اللي بعده هي الكاتش، هذه راح تحفظوها يعني انتوا عادة تعرفوا الكاتش illegal argument هذه you get to remember it, memorize it. And then print statement هذه هنا whatever they tell you to do. Usually it's going to be print statement. لكن إيش المهم what's important is from where you start the try and where you're going to stop it. So you're going to stop the try in the place you expect the exceptions to happen. So فين تتوقع إنه هو يكون فيها خطأ؟ لما تاخذ set radius. So here you're supposed to include it inside the try. Okay? Question? Go ahead. Okay, as long as I don't hear anything, I'll keep going so we can finish as much as possible. بالنسبة للأسئلة البرمجة راح أحاول أغطي اللي يعني الآن we just have less than 10 minutes. راح أكمل إلى نهاية الوقت معكم. بس الأسئلة اللي راح تكون موجودة أغلبها في النهاية كلها coding. إذا كذا ممكن نعمل بعضها. I cannot guarantee إنه مش ممكن نعملها كلها بكرة باللاب. You can help yourself اللي يهم إنه هو يكون فاهمهم. ارجعوا إلى الموك إكزام وشوفوا من فين حنا اليوم وقفنا وحاولوا أنتوا تعملوه لوحدكم. عساس بكرة لو جيت أنا أحل معاكم أنتوا تسألوا direct question تقولوا طيب دكتورة حنا حابين نحل السؤال الفلاني أو النقطة المعينة هذه مش فاهمينها. If you don't go over it أنا راح أمشي على بالأوردر. So if you get something hard بالنسبة لكم بعد كذا يعني مستحيل بكرة we have only 1 hour and we have a lot of coding questions. يعني إذا أنتم شايفين هنا سحبت في تقريبا 3 أسئلة كلها راح تكون coding و long questions. So absolutely we cannot finish it for 1 hour. So I really appreciate if you can go by yourself وتقرأوهم and you point الأشياء اللي تكون صعبة عليكم. طيب السؤال هذا يا عمر I cannot answer it because it's out of my hand. The timing. So let's do question 3. The question 3 هذا خاص بالجافا اف اكس. الجافا اف اكس إذا تذكروا اوكي خلينا نخلص هذا السؤال انا I'll answer الجنرال question. فبالنسبة إلى الجافا اف اكس تذكروا وقت المحاضرة ممكن ترجعوا أنا راح أرسل لكم الريكوردينج again. عملنا ستيبس على أساس إنه دائما تذكروها بالنسبة للجافا اف اكس إنه يكون عندنا اللي هي الستيج السين البين وبعد كذا اللي هي عندنا النودز. لما نجي نعرف نبلش من اللي داخل نعرف النودز بعد كذا نطلع على البين على السين على الستيج. فأنتوا هذه لو تذكروها نفس الستيبس that we gonna to do. طيب if you remember the step is going to help you fill out the question. يعني عادة يعني الجافا اف اكس راح تكون كلها نفس الخطوات. So هنا الخطوة الأولى احنا دائما راح نستخدم الميثود اللي هي الستارت وفي المين مش حاطين لكم هنا المين. So في البداية راح نعرف اللي هي النودز then we're gonna to start with others sorry هنا البين اللي هي الاتش بوكس اللي هي المكان اللي راح ترتبي فيها. So they said it's gonna to be H box so إن هي راح تكون horizontal يعني راح يكون المحتويات it's gonna to be ordered in H box. Okay? Yes, it's pane. بجين صح. You're right. It's not here. Then هنا يقول لك إن البادنجز المسافات اللي راح تكون is 50. This is not what's important for us. إيش المهم بالنسبة لنا؟ لما قال لك add الكود here. You're going to take a look. You see what do you have? You have a text field. So from a type text field, you're going to create a new text field. You can name it whatever. Okay. After the text field, what do we have? We have two buttons. اللي هي previous والnext. المهم بالنسبة لنا هنا addition إلى creation a name. So if it's having previous, you're supposed to put previous. If it's have next, put in next. Don't leave it empty. Okay? لا ما راح يعطوكم النوع. You supposed no. Usually see here البلاك هم أعطيك النوع. بس it's possible جين إن you don't get it. يعني مش دائما هي أنا I believe إن هي مش لأنه هو الصعب فيها إنكم تستنتجوه. أعتقد إن شاء الله ما يكون صعب بالنسبة لكم إنكم تستنتجوا إن هي هذه تكست إن هي buttons. بس هم عارفين إنه ممكن تكون صعبة بالنسبة للطلاب إنهم يتذكروا السنتكست اللي حق استخدامها. فإن هم يعطوكم هذا اللي يكون بالأسود هنا من باب المساعدة أساس إنكم تذكروا أن التكست فيلد يس هنا هذه تكملة فراغ اللي راح يكون بالأحمر you supposed you to write it down اللي بالأسود هذا راح يجي لك. okay so هنا هم يقولوا لك add الكود here هذا اللي بالأحمر هو اللي راح يكون فارغ بحيث أنكم تحطوا الجواب فيه. طيب يعني I hope إن هم يعني راح يساعدوكم ويعطوكم الجزء الأول فأنتوا راح تعرفوا الكونتنتس لما يعطوكم البوتنز ويسموها مسمى they call it you're gonna to create a new buttons and what's important here like أنا I think يعني مثلا لو كان عليها هذه درجتين راح تكون درجة على إنك تكتب previous ودرجة إنكم تستخدموا new buttons. طيب so this is what you're supposed to write down اللي هي اللي بالأحمر. After you create a node, you're going to create a scene and the stage. تمام؟ ايش المهم؟ وهذه I emphasize you guys. أنا already قلت لكم هي during the class. Try to remember it very well. راح تكون تعتمد بعض البينز حسب النوع اللي حقها. Some of them get children وبعضها doesn't use get children. So انتم لو تنشئوا خلينا نقول جدول توضعوا فيه ايش البينز اللي هي انواعها. مثلا هنا عندنا الاتش بوكس، بعضهم راح يكونوا يستخدموا الجيت children's، بعضهم لا. فارجعوا الى نفس اللكتشر وبص schedule ايش هي نوع البينز، تكتبوا اسمها وتقولوا هنا كيف انت راح تعملي لها insert. طيب اتوقع ما تمشي بالاختبار يا لجان. فانت you supposed to write all of them down and then add it. انا الان تو شيئين اللي اتوقع ان الطلاب ممكن يخطئوا فيها كثير، اللي هي هذه انك كيف تحطي النود inside البينز بالنسبه الى الشيء الثاني اللي هي الاري والاري ليست، كيف اللي هي الاد والريموف وغيرها. I highly recommend you انكم تعملوا لكم ليست. طيب فالان هنا استخدمنا الجيت children. ليش؟ لان احنا عندنا الاتش بوكس. راح نقول الجيت children that add all، هذه راح تحفظوها. Then you're going to add all the elements or node that you would like to do. The rest هذه exactly يعني هذه كلها حفظ، عدا one part is going to be different. من فين راح نجيب الكاونتر هنا؟ From where I get this name. كيف عرفت التايتل اللي حق الستيج from where؟ Show it to you. So from where I get this? From here. من النافذة. So don't forget the name. So if you're having the stage name is here. If you're having the buttons name from here. Okay? And then what's important يعني اللي مهمة from all these new buttons, this is inshallah easy for you guys. This part. How you gonna to add the elements. Okay? So خلينا نجاوب هذا السؤال and this is the end. انتهى وقت المحاضرة، بس خلينا نجاوب عشان نكون خلصنا السؤال الثاني. So clicking the next button causes a number of text in the text field to be incremented by 1. Write a call set on action so that handle the button click. يقول لك الآن هو لو ضغطها، لو كان المستخدم هنا كاتب رقم 1 راح يخليها تصير 2. فكيف راح نعملها؟ كيف راح نفكر فيها؟ طبعا عندنا 3 ways to do اللي هي الأكشن. So in this way we're using اللي هي third way اللي هي اللمدة، the easiest one. How we can use it? You're gonna to put الactor name اللي هي عندنا هو next buttons اللي هي هذه next buttons that set on action، وبعد كذا هذه هي راح تكون حفظ نفسها. طيب خلينا نجي إلى هنا. What they told you to do, they said cause a number in the text field to be incremented. A result, that means a result what is going to go is go to text field again. So في مين المكان اللي راح نعمل فيه اللي راح يخزن فيه القيمة؟ هي text field. إيش اسمها؟ اسمها field. We created here, it's called field. Then how we can set text on it? We said dot set text. اللي حاب يطلع يقدر يطلع، احنا almost done. Okay, dot set the text in this field. What we get to do from where we get to get it? راح تاخذ المعلومات من الفيلد نفسه get the text وتعملينها increment by 1. لكن ايش راح نحتاج نعمل قبلها؟ integer dot first integer راح تحولي لها integer وبعد كذا راح تعملي لها set إلى text field. Okay? Any question about this? So we stop in question 3. Inshallah tomorrow we will complete from question 4. Any question? If you would like to leave, you can leave. Nisreen, when it's done, الجواب. You can شريف contact Miss ملك، وهذه حتى Miss ملك مش the one who's taking care of it. يعني هي this is coming from a department. ما أعرف هي الأسئلة راح تكون كذا ولا إن شاء الله تكون أسهل. Anyway, مين سأل قبل أن كيف نذاكر المادة؟ I cannot say إن هذه هي أفضل طريقة أنكم تذاكروا، كل طالب له طريقته المختلفة، لكن نصيحتي أنكم ترجعوا إلى الموك إكزام، ونفس الشيء بالنت راح تلاقوا كثير موك إكزام غير هذه. طيب الدرجات الواجب راح تنزل لما تخلص إن شاء الله، لسه ما فيها وقت. طيب أوكي، لما تيجوا تذاكروا في أشياء تكون مرة مهمة، يعني أنتوا لو حسيتوا أن الوقت يس اللي حاب يطلع يقدر يطلع، تمام. الأسئلة غالبا في أشياء راح تلاحظوا أن دائما فيها تكرار. أنا لو أقول لكم هي كم من مرة فيها أشياء تكرار، يعني تشوفوا أن هي دائما تتكرر، تلاقيها مثلا بالموك إكزام، تلاقيها بالكويزز، تشوفوا مثلا لما تطالعوا المحاضرة تلاحظوا أن بالمحاضرة فيها تركيز أكثر. أنا ما أقول لكم أن دائما هي هذه راح تجي الأسئلة، أنا لا أكتب الأسئلة فاي cannot guarantee للأسف. طيب بس يعني خلينا نقول أن بتجي أسئلة مش متوقعة. مثلا نفترض أن لو جت أسئلة مش متوقعة، كم بالمئة راح تكون؟ الأسئلة العاق غالباً تكون عليها الدرجات الأعلى الأشياء المتكررة، يعني حتى بالنسبة إلى TMA لاحظتوا أن في أشياء تكون متكررة، وللأسف في طلاب أخطأوا فيها كثير وبقوا أن هم يخسروا درجات بكل كلاس يعملوه. مثلاً أنت لما يكون عندنا الانهيرتنس، يعني يكون عندنا كلاس وجالس inherit extend من كلاس ثاني، ما تتخيلوا قد ايش طلاب ناسين ان هم invoked السوبر constructor. I really get sorry for them. يعني هي ان this is one of the basic، ان لما يكون انت عندك extend السب كلاسز السوبر كلاسز، هذه بحالها at least انكم تضمنوا درجات الاشياء اللي تكون خلينا نقول بديهيه. يعني لما يكون عندنا سب كلاسز وسوبر كلاسز، التشايلد لازم يعمل كول الى السوبر دات اسم الاتريبيوت. عدد كبير جدا من الطلاب كاتبين this dot الاتريبيوت اللي جايه من السوبر. This is one of the common mistake. الother mistake نفس الشيء بالنسبه الى to string. التو string يعني كررناها كثير بشكل كبير. وخليني بس أعمل ستوب للشيرينج أساس. طيب بالنسبة إلى أيوة اللي حاب يخرج يقدر يخرج، أنا كمان ودي أخرج، بس خليني أعطيكم الكومن ميستيك على أساس اللي حابين إنهم يستفيدوا من الأخطاء اللي أكثر شيء تكررت بالTMA. اللي حاب يخرج يقدر يخرج. حنا دام الأذر ميستيك اللي هي التو سترينج. لما يكون عندكم تو سترينج وأنتم جالسين تعملوا أوفر رايد، أجين لازم تستخدموا السوبر إلى التو سترينج. يعني ما يصير ترجعوا مرة ثانية تكتبوا أنتم جايبين النيم وجايبين نفترض مثلا أي أذر attribute من السوبر، وما ترجعوا تعملوا كول في التو سترينج إلى السوبر. طيب إيش الأذر ميستيك؟ الأبستراكت. abstract. لما يكون عندكم class you cannot create instance of، انتم ما تقدروا تعملوا instance منه، لازم تقولوا انه هو abstract. هذه مهمة. ولو جالكم بالتفصيل لازم تقولوا ان هي مش inherit، يعني الأغلبية يقول inherit و command. طيب ان هي inherit و command، بس طيب هي البيرسون، هل تقدر تقول شخص انه هو بس بيرسون او individual او ايش اسمه؟ لازم انه هو يكون abstract. ايش يعني abstract؟ يعني انت ما تقدر تعمل منه instance. you cannot create instance منه. طيب ايش كمان من الاخطاء الكثيرة؟ اذا انتم حابين انكم تعملوا access الى methods في الكلاس، حابين تعملوا access الى methods بدون ما تعملوا object، ايش راح تستخدموا؟ static. كثير نسوا يستخدموا مثلا الستاتيك ان نستخدمها بالكلاس اللي هي الكلاس الاساسيه اللي راح تستخدم الميثودز حقها. لو كان عندك كلاسز ومش حابين انكم تنشئوا اوبجكت منها، بس انتم حابين تعملوا اكسس الميثودز اللي فيها، it has to be static. اوكي. ايش كمان؟ خليني أحاول أتذكر أنا إلى بكرة إن شاء الله. لو ذكرت شيء كمان while we all، لأنه راح يكون بكرة إن شاء الله كله برمجة الأسئلة، فما دام حنا نعملها إن شاء الله راح أحاول أشوف إيش الأغلب الأغلاط وأرجع أقول لكم هي كمان. الآن أخليكم إذا ما عندكم أسئلة نستودعكم الله وإن شاء الله نشوفكم بكرة. في أمان الله، مع السلامة، يعافيكم جميعا.